The Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, FiND, in partnership with Cavite State University, College of Nursing, Learning Through Crisis, a look back. Year 2021, a year to inspire, aspire, build, and to share. The Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, in partnership with Cavite State University, Don Severino de las Alas Campus, and Don Cavite, Philippines, College of Nursing, came up to a partnership to leverage education and enhance the learning experience of nurses in the Philippines and around the globe. Filipino Nursing Diaspora, FiND, founded in 2018, the network is based in Sydney, Australia, and is an international professional organization serving the Filipino nurses who are working and living outside of the Philippines. The network was an offshoot from the International Roundtable Meeting of Filipino nursing leaders held at the Australian Catholic University last July 16, 2018. The network's mission is actually to enhance the role and value the Filipino nurses across the globe. Cavite State University College of Nursing, the College of Arts and Sciences offered the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program in Cavite State University in school year 2002 to 2003 as per approval of the BOR Resolution number 57 series of 2001. For indeed, from an insignificant beginning to the college current status as being one of the biggest in the school community, it has grown to be one of the finest among state universities. Now headed by Dr. Evelyn Del Mundo, the college continuously upgrading its quality of education by producing competent nursing graduates, provision of state-of-the-art facilities for instruction and research purposes for students as well as its faculty members, recruitment of highly qualified faculty, and establishing good and strong affiliations with various government, private hospitals, and health centers. Webinar Series Number 1. How do healthcare professionals correct misinformation in social media? With guest speaker Dr. John Robert Bautista, held last August 29, 2020, with GAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Ms. Karen Luella Rin, RN Man.
Number 1, at least dito sa US, is yung vaccine. So there's always a debate about vaccination here. So they usually encounter vaccine misinformation.
I can say that all of us in the nursing profession were caught off guard to face this pandemic situation. It is very challenging experience for us as nurses in the academe. But I believe that caring is in the blood of the Filipino nurses.
Webinar Series Number 2. Evidence-based community interventions for diabetes and hypertension among Filipino American, global implications with guest speaker Dr. Maria Danette Blum, held last February 27, 2021, with GAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Ms. Karen Luella Rin, RN Man.
The other part is global implications. So it's not actually, it's not just the US. This is the data from the International Diabetes Federation, where if you see all that, like all the arrows here really are going up in terms of the number of diabetes.
Webinar Series Number 3. Perils of Predatory Publishing, How Can Nurse Researchers Lead the Way? With guest speaker Dr. Leodora Labrague, RN, DM, CNE, held last April 18, 2021, with GAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Mr. Ivan Derek V. Waikoko, RN Man.
The Commission on Higher Education has a list of credible Filipino journals. If you are not aware or if you do not know of other journals where to send your paper, I encourage you, look for credible journals listed by the Commission on Higher Education.
Webinar Series Number 4. The Viral Spread of Vaccine Hesitancy, Building Vaccine Confidence via Empathy and Narratives in the Philippines, with guest speaker Dr. Mark Donald Reynosa, held last June 19, 2021, with CAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Mr. Ivan Derek V. Waikoko.
So what can we do to alleviate your fears, your anxiety? So what makes you anxious of not getting the vaccine? And then they will start like, because there were some news about Sinovac, and then there's news about this Pfizer, and then you are hearing a lot of narratives in the Facebook that why are they not giving Pfizer to us? We are paying also our taxes, and so on and so forth.
Webinar Series Number 5, Advancing Advanced Practice Nursing Globally. What stakeholders need to know, with guest speaker Dr. Jasper Talarba, DNP, RN, CCRN, held last August 27, 2021, with CAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Mr. Ivan Derek V. Waikoko, RN Man.
It's important to know the different origin or where it started initially. So it was in the 1960s that advanced practice nurses actually started, and the motivation for the creation of advanced practice nurses actually emanated from the lack of physicians and also the rising healthcare costs. So those were the motivations.
Meeting in preparation for November 19 webinar with Dean Evelyn M. Del Mundo, RN, PhD, and Mr. Ivan Derek V. Waikoko, RN Man. Webinar Series Number 6, Understanding Health Behavior and Application of Theories in Research Among Older Adults, with guest speaker Dr. Mary Joyce Ramos, held this day of November 19, 2021, with CAVSU Coordinator to FiND, Mr. Ivan Derek V. Waikoko. In a span of 2020 to 2021, we have made this possible. It helped a lot of people: nurses, students, researchers, members of the academe, professors, community, and many more. Achieving in the aim of imparting scientific and up-to-date knowledge in the area of biological, behavioral, social, and medical science, gaining theoretical and practical knowledge that is essential for rendering intelligent and efficient nursing services. Nursing education also aims to contributing to the all-around development of the individual, opening horizons for the growth of a profession, and the nursing education aims at preparing nurses to carry out researches so as to add to the body of knowledge by means of scientific investigations. Reaching and disseminating information all throughout the globe. FiND and CAVSU partnership has brought awareness on health, behaviors, vaccine hesitancy, evidence-based community interventions, and correct information dissemination on social media. And will continue to make things possible. As the famous saying, develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow, by Anthony D'Angelo. Thank you, and more years of strong partnership to come.
Let us ask and feel the presence of our Heavenly Father, which will be then followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Let us bow our heads and put ourselves in the holiness of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear mighty and ever-loving God, sing. In your presence, continuously remind us of your faithfulness and guidance. With these, we may humbly ask to shower our speakers today of the greatest inspiration so that they may share their most knowledge, heart, and soul to their respective topics. May we also absorb the invaluable knowledge, experience, and to put into practice what we may learn today. We pray that you bless all the committees in the change that they may be able to fulfill their task, responsibility that is objective, that have set may all be achieved. Your infinite blessing would mean the success of this webinar. May we be a living witness to your genuine love through the enactment of the knowledge acquired through this activity. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This year and this month, we celebrate women and their achievements in all areas of society. Friends, mothers, daughters, visionaries, queens, rulers, women. Happy International Women's Month and welcome to the 7th in the series of International Nursing webinar entitled The Power of You, Personal and Professional Branding for Nurses. This webinar is in collaboration with the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network and Cavite State University College of Nursing. My name is Ivan Derek Waikoko from the College of Nursing, Program in Charge. And joining me is Mr. Rolando Soroli Antonio, a faculty member of the College of Nursing and our college secretary. Hi, Sir Rolly. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sir Ivan. I guess all of us here in the platform zone are all excited and excited for today's webinar. Meanwhile, Sir Ivan, for the information of everyone, there are about 300 and counting attendees in today's webinar.
All right, and we are happy to hear that, Sir Rolly. Please also be informed that this webinar is being recorded, and the recorded session will be posted on the Facebook page of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network. To commence the webinar, a few reminders in today's activity. First is to utilize the Zoom question and answer section and the Zoom chat box for your questions. Second, you may click the raise hand reaction for any concerns and write in the chat box for some technical concerns. Lastly is to observe etiquette during the course of the webinar. Now let us hear more from Sir Rolly.
Yes, this webinar is intended for researchers, faculty of the College of Nursing and Health Sciences, students of allied health, nursing staff and employees working in both public and public hospitals, educators, and in other interested professionals. Today's webinar has 5 specific objectives. First is to identify a clear idea of one's professional and personal brand. Second is to understand the features and benefits of our branding. Third is to gain an understanding of their personal impact and natural leadership style and how they can change to stay on brand. And fourth is to identify personal belief, values, and rules and their impact on the workplace. And lastly, to learn how to influence and communicate in a way that serves their professional and personal brand. At the end of the webinar, we will be sending the link of the evaluation form, and we will highly appreciate if you will fill out and complete this data needed in the evaluation. All feedback, comments, and suggestions we receive will be considered for the improvement of our future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Rolly. At this point, let us call on the Director for Research and the officer in charge of the Office of the Vice President for Research and Extension for the welcome message. Join me welcoming Dr. Miriam Dubaltazar. Good afternoon, Dr. Miriam.
Good afternoon. Sir, naririnig po ba ako?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sir Ivan. So to Dr. Benjo Breboneria, the head of the nursing department, King Faisal University, and also our resource speaker this afternoon, sir. Dr. Violeta Lopez, the President and CEO of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network. Ma'am. Dr. Evelyn Del Mundo, the Dean of the CVSU College of Nursing, together with the College of Nursing Academic Council. Dr. Eleanor Galvez, the Dean of the CVSU College of Medicine. Faculty members and students of the College of Nursing, CVSU. Participants from other institutions, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Isang mapagpala at maulang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So I am really delighted po to welcome all of you to this webinar entitled The Power of You, Personal and Professional Branding for Nurses. So thank you for taking time off from your hectic schedules to be present in the next 2 hours of new learnings. And of course, gusto po nating i-congratulate the College of Nursing, the Beta Nu Delta Nursing Society for Humanity, and also the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network for this initiative to empower, to capacitate our nurses who are engaged in research, nurses who are engaged in teaching, those who are engaged in industry, school nurses, nursing staff and personnel, and even nursing students. So I really commend you for the efforts in spearheading this activity, for going beyond your official hours to ensure that our nurses and soon-to-be nurses would receive meaningful information. And of course, we would like to thank the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network and the Beta Nu Delta Nursing Society for Humanity for collaborating with CVSU and also for trusting us as your partner in promoting nursing education. Branding is how we promote ourselves. So it is imperative for those in the nursing profession and everyone who deals with various stakeholders. And in the context of nursing profession, personal branding is crucial as it speaks to who you are, who we are, and what makes you tick as a nurse and as a healthcare professional. So napaka-importante po nito. That's why this afternoon we will learn more about the power of personal and professional branding for nurses and healthcare practitioners. So it is our high hopes that at the end of this webinar, you will be able to gain an in-depth understanding of the concept of branding and of course its relevance to your profession. And of course, in behalf of the Office of the Vice President for Research and Extension, we welcome you to this webinar on personal and professional branding for nurses. So mabuhay po kayong lahat, magandang hapon, and thank you very much.
You're very much welcome, Dr. Baltazar, and we are very pleased to have you today. Thank you once again.
And now to give us an opening remarks, may we call in Professor Violeta Lopez, the current President and CEO of the Diaspora Network, to give us the opening remarks. Good day, Professor Lopez.
Good day from Australia. And I just want to correct that I'm the president of the FiND network, but the CEO is Professor Jerome Babate, who has been very, very active in promoting the FiND network and encouraging a lot of our partners to be involved in all our activities. As mentioned earlier, the FiND network has been established in 2018, and we hope that we could provide up-to-date information about what is happening to all our Filipino nurses who are working globally, and most of all, for those who are working in the Philippines. It is really very important to maintain this partnership with the different institutions, not only in the Philippines, but also in Europe, in the US, in United Kingdom, and New Zealand as well. We are really, really grateful for this partnership with Cavite State University since last year. And we have a number of webinars that have been presented to you as an introduction to these webinars. And we are really, really very grateful that Cavite State University continue to uphold the mission and vision of not only about your university, but also the FiND network. And I thank the president as well as Dean Del Mundo in encouraging the staff of Cavite State University College of Nursing to be very active in the webinars. Of course, we have a number of many good invited resource persons from different parts of the world. And at this time, of course, we are really lucky to be able to invite Dr. Benjamin Breboneria from King Faisal University or Hospital to give us this very, very good topic, which is really an opportune time to listen because of the current COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, this will be continuing as a pandemic throughout this year, but also, of course, in next year. There have been a lot of news and social media about the work of nurses, what they have been doing during this pandemic. And it highlights that nurses are really, really important in providing these services for our community, especially those who have been infected by the virus. But most of all, the resilience of the nurses who are working very closely with these patients in the hospitals as well as in the community. According to the World Health Organization Chief Nurse, Elizabeth Iro, a transformation is happening at the WHO itself that had given rise to an unprecedented and long overdue recognition of the contribution and value of the nurses and midwives that has allowed the profession an important worldwide platform. In addition, what the president of the ICN has been trying to voice out in the policies is that there is a power of nursing. We have the power in numbers, in associations, in the trust and the credibility of the extraordinary work that we all do. We have the power and the potential for what we can do for ourselves and for the health of the planet. We already have the power of our structures, and we should build on that, not only now, but also in the future. So we should continue to provide high education quality for our student nurses and to provide ongoing professional education to our current nurses who are working in the field. We should continue as what the topic of our webinar today is to brand our personal as well as our professional status so that we can be recognized internationally, not only among our colleagues as nurses, but also among the other healthcare professionals. And we should continue to specialize in different fields of healthcare system. And there are a lot of opportunities for our nurses to do so. So again, for this webinar, on behalf of the directors and the advisory board members of the FiND network, I thank you very much for attending. And I am happy to hear that we have more than 300 participants who have logged in to listen for this important webinar that is going to be presented by our guest speaker. Thank you very much. And I hope that we can have another webinar later on during the year. Maraming salamat and good day. Narinig niyo ba ako?
Yes, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you. Sir Ivan.
All right, and to formally introduce our resource speaker, let us call on the Dean of the College of Nursing, Dr. Evelyn M. Del Mundo. Good afternoon, Dean.
Good afternoon. Pleasant day to all. A warm greeting to all present in this webinar. To our OIC VP for Research and Extension, Dr. Miriam Du Balcazar. To the President of Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, Professor Violeta Lopez. The CEO of FiND Network, Dr. Jerome Babate. And to Dr. Cindy Lay, the Director for Professional Development of FiND. And to all faculty members, colleagues, and staff from different colleges and campuses of Cavite State University, from other state and private universities and institutions, parents, students, and other stakeholders present in our virtual platform. Good afternoon. I will be introducing our renowned resource speaker, Benjo, as his close friends and colleagues call him, has been exposed to the extensive yet fulfilling landscape of nursing education and leadership. His passion is to empower others by giving opportunities for others to speak for themselves. He firmly believes in authenticity as a key in achieving an organization's vision and goals. Awareness of oneself and honing one's potential are some of the most remarkable points he deems necessary for an individual to pave his way towards success. He works as the head of nursing department of King Faisal University, College of Applied Medical Sciences, or CAMS. His role includes being the program director and chair of the top BSN program in terms of licensure outcomes. Became #1 for 4 years now among more than 40 nursing schools in the kingdom, and spearheaded the first MSN nurse educator track in Saudi Arabia, serving more than 10 regions across the country. He is also the current Deputy Director of the Patient Care Technician program under the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties. In addition, he is an educator and a Gallup certified strengths coach in his field of practice. He always goes beyond expectations in his work and studies. With this, he was an alumnus of the National League for Nursing Center for Transformational Leadership LEAD program, a current Sigma Experienced Academic Leadership Academy and Nursing Now Challenge Scholar, and a Board of Commissioner for certifications in the National League for Nursing. For continuing nursing education, or the CNE, certified academic in clinical nursing education, and Community Nursing Executive Networks Examination USA. It seems his nature to help and care for other people. He is an optimist himself as he constantly imparts positive impact in various ways. His current projects involve accreditation, commission education in nursing, and accreditation of the BSN and MSN programs in King Faisal University, where he is the nurse administrator and leader. Recently, he organized an event for global nursing leaders to share the lessons learned and lived experiences, narrative pedagogy, benefiting nurses without barriers from more than 30 countries. Really, hard work and passion have always driven him to do more. Without further ado, let's welcome our resource speaker for today, no other than Dr. Benjamin Joel Benjo Breboneria. The screen is yours, Doc Benjo.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who are in this webinar event. And honestly speaking, every time that I was introduced in that way, it makes me feel awkward. Because if I will be asked and be given an opportunity to talk about myself, I will really highlight and capitalize on my core values. And that will be a part of my presentation, particularly in the beginning. So, Ivan? Okay, so actually it's very interesting a while ago because when Dr. Evelyn was mentioning about one of the events that I organized and really to communicate with the leaders that I admire and for them to be able to share their stories, it's because I'm actually a fan of storytelling. So I'm probably one of those people who learn a lot when it comes to listening to the stories of people that I admire or the unique stories that probably can impact me or the people around me. Next, please, Ivan. Okay. So as I said a while ago, I was introduced talking about my credentials and all those kind of stuff. But honestly speaking, this is actually a part of all my presentations and all my engagements. I always talk about these things. And one of the words that I truly value is grit. Because when I was in the Philippines, especially when I was on my early 20s, I was this very young professional who is very, should I say, aggressive in terms of work and wanting to achieve a lot of things in my career and in my in business, probably. And to cut the story short, in that experience, I had this, should I say, extreme failure at that time. That was on my early 20s. And I was in a state of confusion. I was in a state of, how can I say, I do not know what to do with my life, and I do not know what to do with my career. All right. Even me going to Saudi Arabia is something that I really never thought, I mean, would happen to me, because it's totally unplanned. Like, because of that failure, because I was in a state of sadness, I was in a state of that extreme challenge. Really, my mind is so cloudy, and at that time, I just really want to go out. And honestly speaking, probably some people around me, most of the people around me, think that I am doing a great job, or probably I'm excelling in all the things that I would like to pursue. But at that time, really, I was so confused. And I'm probably one of those people who value this work, because I believe that in all the challenges that we experience in our life, it's very important for us to look for ways on how we are going to bounce back. And Saudi Arabia became a blessing for me, because when I came in Saudi Arabia, it gave me an opportunity for me to bounce back from that failure. I will not be going into details, but it gave me an opportunity to learn more skills, learn new things, and for me to be able also to get to understand different cultures, for me to understand cultural diversity, cultural, how can I say, inclusivity, and for me to be able to be given a chance to inspire others and do things that I love to do, such as talking to nurses, inspiring nurses, or motivating nurses. Next slide, please. Honestly speaking, when it comes to the struggles that we experience in our life, sometimes I feel that it's magic. All those challenges that are happening, our personal or probably in our career, it's actually preparing us to understand ourselves better, or even better, in a deeper level. And in that process, in that circle, you will get to be surprised on how you are starting to understand who you are, and for you to be able to express yourself more freely to the people around you. Because I I will tell you honestly, when I was, I mean, probably way back 5 years ago or 5 to 10 years ago, I can speak. I can speak in front of an audience, because a lot of the things that I always feel that the people around me are hypercritical. I think too much of that all the time. And when I want to start to express myself, especially in my in speaking engagements, sometimes it's either I will not accept the invitation, or probably will not be able to say what I want to say. And I always have that feeling of nervousness when it comes talking in front of people. So I really never thought that all throughout that journey, really trying to embrace all those experiences that I had, because especially if a person failed at something, or if a human being or any person is experiencing a lot of negative feelings, there are people who will tend to go out or probably stay away and avoid those kinds of emotions. But sometimes we don't realize that it's really when we try to deeply embrace and really understand and feel those kinds of emotions, that is really where it will make us more resilient. It will make us, how can I say, to be more grounded, and to be able to understand the different kinds of emotions. That will also help us to understand the emotions of others when they are sad, or when they are in pain, or when they are in an extreme challenge. Next slide, please, Ivan. And to cut the story short, because it was supposed to be a long story that is quite big in detail, but honestly speaking, I learned the value of gratitude, because I feel that I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed in a way that I have a lot of people who are in that circle pouring their gratitude towards me. And for me to be able to have that kind of people around me, of course, that includes my parents also, and also my friends, and also my mentors, especially my mentors, whom really selflessly teach me and really to, how can I say it? Someone is asking a question. How did you develop your self-esteem to speak in an audience? Honestly speaking, even this is real story. I mean, sometimes when I am talking to a diverse group of people, I feel that I am more confident. And sometimes also, there are certain groups of people sometimes when you are talking in front of them, it's also kind of, you feel a little bit more nervous. But I will be answering all those all those questions later. So when it comes to gratitude, I think that's very important, especially now that after the pandemic, or we're still in the pandemic, it's very important for us to look around us and to be able to see all the beautiful things that are poured on us. We have family, we have our families, we have our friends, and we have our mentors and the true people who love us. Because sometimes we tend to look at the negative things that are happening around us, and we tend to be affected by that, and we don't know how to set boundaries sometimes, especially when we are, let's say, in a workplace wherein there is no such thing as a perfect workplace. Sometimes there are also workplaces wherein it's not perfect, in a sense that there are people who can tend to probably affect us also with the way they behave. And it's very important for us to take care of ourselves also by setting boundaries, because that is also a form of self-care. So there are so many things to be honestly to be grateful for. And Ivan, please, next slide. Continue. All right. So there are just some important quotations here that I would like to share. Go back to the other slide, Ivan, please. Okay. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. So probably this is one of the things that I have learned, because all of us in this webinar event, we have a story to tell. We have our own, as I said a while ago, challenges, experiences, and probably negative things or positive things that are happening in our lives. But all of us, particularly nurses like us, we have that opportunity to use those stories that we have for us to be able to inspire others, particularly those nurses who are around us, like especially now in the workplace. We all know that we have been struggling with many contemporary issues, such as workplace bullying, such as nurses being very young. But honestly speaking, this is also a very important platform, or a very important strategy or pedagogy that we can actually motivate and inspire the nurses around us because of our story. So this is something that I feel like it's very important to communicate to the nurses. That's why when Dr. Violeta a while ago is sharing her speech, there are certain parts of it that resonated with me. So we need to think in that way, that we have those words and we are delivering those words for us to empower the nurses around us. And there's also a very important element when it comes to sharing your story, which is to, how can I say it, for it to resonate, it needs to be true and it needs to be real. All right, Ivan, next. So I will just quickly read these quotations. We all have a story. The difference is, do you use your story or the story to empower yourself? Or do you use your story to keep yourself a victim? The question itself empowers you to change your life. Next slide, please, Ivan. Okay. So if you are so great, how come no one knows about you? So if you will be asked a question now, do you think you are known? Do you think you are popular? Do you think you have a specific brand? So it's like, for example, if I will mention the name of Ivan, what is the first thing that comes into your mind, right? Like Aiba, like when you hear the word Dr. Evelyn, I mean, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay, next slide, please. Don't just express yourself, invent yourself, and don't restrict yourself to the off-the-shelf models. Next slide, please. Okay, next. Okay. So actually, this topic that I will be discussing when it comes to branding, because branding has many different dimensions. It can be the business side of branding. It can be branding as a profession. But I will be focusing on how are we going to leverage our brand as a person, as a professional. So it applies not only to nurses, but also to other professions. So what is my distinct brand? If you will be asking your question, this question to yourself right now, what do you think is your distinct brand? What do you think is something that sets you apart from the people around you, like let's say in the workplace? Okay. And also, if I will be asking you a question, what do I want to be known for? Do you have any specific thing in mind that you want to be known for? Do you want to become the best ICU nurse in your hospital? Do you want to become the best, how can I say, the best operating room nurse in your area? So there are so many questions to ask yourself by looking at these questions. Next, please, Ivan. Okay, just continue scrolling. So you have a brand whether you are aware of that. This is actually what everybody in this room needs to understand. Because we are molded to be the type of person and to be the kind of professional. And this is actually, or how can I say, the way we act and the way we show ourselves to the people around us, whether we are in a workplace, whether we are in front of our friends, is actually talks about who we are and talks about our brand. And of course, it can be because of your life experiences. But along the way also, we need to understand that certain people behave in many different ways because of the following. Okay? But, and also, when they show themselves to the people around them also, it might be also because of their life experiences. Right? So people who, how can I say it, who have the power to influence other people or the people around them, they are typically the people that have very rich life experiences and really learning from those experiences. All right. And sometimes also your point of view and actions talks about who you are. When someone wants to communicate with you, are you the type of person that is very easy to approach? Are you the type of person that when you answer the phone, you are always angry? Are you the type of person that when someone asks you to go out and you are like always say yes and you don't know how to say no? Are you the type of person who, how can I say, sorry to say, because this is happening in real life, I mean, in reality, are you the type of person who bullies the young nurses around you? So these are kind of critical questions because the way we act, the way we show ourselves, the way we behave, and the way on what we, how can I say it, we treat others actually is a part of our brand. So the way others perceive you. So now, if you will be asking also the people around you, what do you think about me? Or if you will be asking yourself this question yourself, what do you think about me? What can you say about me? What can you say about my behavior? So this is also a part of your brand. All right. So branding has many different dimensions also. So if you would be asking, like, for example, a group of people in a room, what do you think about me? What is your perception about me? That actually talks about your default brand. It's like, are you the type of person who cares to the people around you? Are you the type of person who is very kind to the people around you? The reason why authenticity is very important for me because all throughout my journey as a young professional, there is always one very important thing that I will never forget. And it is actually something that I have seen with my parents. My parents, they are very, very kind people. My parents, they are very, very, how can I say it, humble people. So probably if when I deliver myself to the table, when I am in a group of people or in a meeting, when I'm having a conversation with the people around me, I always carry that with me, that kindness that I learned from my parents as well. And that's also a part of our brand. All right. Okay, next, Ivan, please. All right. If you will be asked, okay, to select which of these two brands would you prefer? Can participants in this room participate? I mean, like, for example, these two brands. Okay, like, which among the two brands will you select? Okay, if you'll be drinking coffee, if you want to drink coffee, okay, which brand do you prefer? Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts? All right. And there are distinct characteristics and qualities, right? If you will be looking at the two brands, right? Starbucks. Okay, are you going to, are you going to Starbucks because you want to sit there for 2 hours and have coffee? You want to go with the trend? All right. Do you want to be in? All right. So what's the purpose why you are drinking coffee, or just because you are a coffee lover? Or is it because Starbucks have a lot of variety when it comes to coffee? Or is it because Dunkin' Donuts is more cheaper? All right. Think of yourself as a brand, as a nurse, for example, as a professional, as an example. All right. What do you think is distinct between you and your coworkers? All right. Ask that question. Ask this question to yourself. What do you think is distinct about you? Okay. That sets you different. All right. From your colleagues and your coworkers. Okay. Next, please. Okay. since I think majority of the participants here are in the Philippines, I would like to ask this question. Which do you prefer? All right, McDonald's or Jollibee? McDonald's. Okay. Someone talked about character and values. You know, honestly speaking, this is very important. This is actually, how can I say it, something that we need to uphold when we are at work. But the problem, I will tell you, in the real work scenario, the problem is that we are having a hard time to show us who we are, to show ourselves, our true selves, right? It's very difficult for us because we're afraid of judgment. We are afraid that we are, how can I say, evaluated. Okay, even with the way we speak, even with the words that we use, even our grammar, right? You know, sometimes, can you imagine a workplace wherein you can just express yourself and you can talk about, what you think, all right? And being respected and accepted by the people around you. Can you imagine? I mean, the difference if you are in that kind of environment. Okay, next, please. Okay, what about this too? The reason why actually I included this in the presentation, because I hear a lot from some of my friends that actually I have a friend who actually now has Toyota. Before she is with Ford, and she said that the maintenance is more expensive with Ford. I'm not sure if that's true. Okay, but this is something that I actually heard from her. Next, please. Okay. Can you imagine? This is actually, how can I say, very nostalgic also and very common, particularly in the Philippines. We go to KFC because KFC have a lot of gravy, right? We pour the gravy in the rice. We like gravy, right? And then also, mang inasal, because we tend to, how can I say it, use our hands, bare hands when we are eating. So there are this, how can we say it, distinct characteristics and qualities between these two brands. So can you imagine also if you will be buying a milk in a supermarket, what brand will you choose? right? This is the same as how we are in the workplace environment. This is also how we are, okay, when we are in a group of people having a meeting. Okay, so sometimes also, can you imagine attending a meeting wherein people can just express themselves without being attacked, or without, how can I say it, without having that feeling that I will not be talking anymore, because if I will be talking, maybe everybody will laugh at me, or everybody will discredit my idea, or probably will not allow me to express myself to the table. All right, next slide, please. Okay, just continue, Ida. Okay. So personal branding actually is your reputation. Okay, the mental real estate you hold in the minds of others. That's why I mentioned a while ago, if you will be asked a question, what do the people around you think of you? But we will be talking about some differences later. A promise or a covenant between you and your client and anyone else about what they can expect when doing business or interacting with you. Next slide, please. Okay. The way to be identified by your passions, your core values, and talents. You have to remember that I think one of the things that I see from the people around me, like for example, in my workplace, you can really differentiate someone who is very passionate, all right, in their work. For me, being hardworking is different from a person who is also hardworking and has the passion to do the work. All right. I feel like that is more powerful. And that's the reason why also when they do things, or when it comes to handling projects, you can actually see that there's something distinct, okay, from what they are doing, because they love what they are doing. All right. So there is a difference there. Core values. So this is very important. When you are in workplace, for example, do you bring your core values at work? I mean, everything that you have learned from your mentors, everything that you have learned from your parents, all right, looking back at, how can I say it, the values that you have learned, all right, particularly, like for example, in my case, as I mentioned a while ago, kindness, all right, that has, sometimes always been something that I always carry with me, especially when I am in a group of people like the meeting. All right. So I tend to be more expressive and also to break the ice. All right. Sometimes when I am in a meeting as well. And talents. All right. Sometimes personal branding or professional branding, we're talking about our talents. All right. It might be talents that are innate or inborn, or it can be something related to our profession or something that is related to our career. All right, because there are people also who are, probably possibly practicing nursing, but at the same time also they have a business. All right, because they have business skills, or how can enterprise skills. All right, so there are so many things here. A reflection of who you are and what you believe, which is visibly expressed by what you do and how you do it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what are the benefits? All right, and I will tell you also, when you want to brand yourself, for example, it's also a journey. Okay, and there are so many ways to do it. You can do it intentionally. All right, like for example, when you want to become a leader and you want to influence the people around you, it's very important that you are intentional, that you have the intentionality to bring yourself and that intentionality as a leader to uh, inspire the people around you. You're doing it because you want to do it and you are happy to do it. You're happy doing it. All right. So it provides you greater recognition. It increases both your credibility and prestige, can help you position as an industry leader. Next slide, please. Okay. Attract more of the right kind of opportunity. So as you can see, it's very important for this actually to be taught in role transition courses, particularly in nursing, like for example, in the level 4. That's why if you are going to look at American curriculum, particularly in the bachelor's level, they have courses that talks about role transition, because the nurses transitioning from the school and then going to the real life and actual working environment in the hospital, they need to understand these things. Branding, they need to understand how to develop a resume, they need to understand how what is a career trajectory plan, all right, for them to be able to engage themselves in lifelong learning. All right, increase earning potential. So sometimes also branding can also be in tie up with the business. Like for example, you will see a lot of nurses nowadays not practicing nursing, or there are also others who are practicing nursing but using the social media platform to generate finances, to generate income by using their brand. All right, so that's also another dimension of branding. All right, it creates top of mind status and puts us in a leadership role. So that's why if you will be asked a question, what is your talent? You need to know that. You need to know what is your strength. Okay, for you to be able to capitalize on that at work. That's why there are many surveys and many assessment tools that you can use as well. All right, for you to know that if you want to uh, to truly understand who you are. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what branding it won't do to cover up incompetence, to work if it is a lie, and work instantaneously. I will tell you, it doesn't work in an instant. It's a journey also. All right. Like for example, one of the things that I have learned from my mentor told me that, Benjamin, sometimes when like there are people who write books, or there are people who wants to tell their story. The problem sometimes that the story doesn't resonate, because resonate meaning to be felt by the people who are listening to it. So and the reason why is because there is dissociation between the mind and the heart. All right. Or either way, it's not as authentic as on how the story is told. Okay, next please. Okay, why is it effective? Okay, of course, it allows you to align with your core values and to be recognized for who you really are. It helps you highlight and to be recognized for that wow factor, that one thing that you can deliver unlike anyone else. And it positions you as an industry leader, pulling in more clients and unexpected opportunities. Next slide, please. Okay, I will be selecting some important words. It draws to you the right kind of people, your optimal clients, so that you aren't looking at anyone who breeds as a potential client. It helps you create a laser focus and therefore be in a position to capitalize other streams of income. This is another dimension. Okay, please, next slide, Ivan. Okay, so now what are the strategies, okay, to develop a strong brand identity? Next slide, please, Ivan. Okay, mindset. Okay, the first thing that we need to look at is our mindset. Okay, how do you currently view your brand? Okay, do you think that if you are looking at yourself, always questioning yourself, or you don't believe in yourself, or like I will tell you in my case, long years back, I have a very, very low self-esteem. Really, and that's probably because of the experiences that I had when I was still a child. Okay, that somehow had an impact on me growing up. All right, so and it's also a journey, it's a challenge. So learn to operate with an end in mind. Learn to stretch your vision. Get clear on what is holding you back from where you're meant to be. Because sometimes what really hinders us, for us to be able to reach our potential, for us to be able to achieve our goals as a leader, as a professional, as a nurse, is actually our mindset. Okay, sometimes we tend to put ourselves in that circle, all right, and we are afraid to go to the other side of the coin. All right, sometimes it's about mindset. What things are you tolerating in your work and life right now? All right, it's like How do you take care of yourselves? If you're in a toxic environment, so like, do you tolerate to be treated in a way that you are disrespected, in a way that you are not taken care of or appreciated, and things like that? Okay, next, please. Okay, personal brand audit. So honestly speaking, sometimes because we are so driven with our work, we tend not to think of these things. Okay, but it's very important for us. What are your strengths and weaknesses? How do you see yourself? How do others see you? How open you are to continuous feedback? I will tell you, one of the most important lessons that I learned from my mentors and also from the people who know me very well, it's very important for us if we really want to grow, if we really want to go in a different level, we really need to have an acceptance that there is really something that we need to change, okay, in what we currently have. It can be in terms of our behavior, or it can be in terms of our career, all right? Could others describe your personal brand as succinctly as how you describe it? Are you living in alignment with who you say and you believe who you are? All right. Is there a disconnect? Okay. Do you model the way as a leader, for example? Do you do what you say? Okay. Or walk the talk, as they said. Next, please. Next, please. Okay. So there's so many things because as I told you, sometimes as nurses, we don't know that there are so many ways for us to be able to know our strengths, to know our talents. And we can, it's not just only from, how can I say, getting feedback from our mentors or from the people around us. So these are just some of the assessment tools that actually can help us. Like for example, Clifton Strengths. If you want to know your top 5 strengths, and capitalize on those, capitalize on them. Because according to Gallup research, professionals tends to be more successful when they know their strengths and capitalize on them rather than focusing on their weaknesses. All right. You can also use skill scope, and you can also use this one. Actually, this is one of the most, especially for leaders and aspiring leaders. Okay. The Puses and Posner. Okay, I'm not sure if you know this book, The Leadership Challenge. Okay, so they also have this LPI 360, wherein you will be evaluated in the following domains. Do you model the way as a leader? Do you inspire a shared vision? Challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so this is an example on how, because it's very important for us to gather feedback. Okay, although if we are not using assessment tools, we can actually ask, you know, ask the people whom we trust. Okay, just in case that we don't have ways on using these kinds of evaluation tools like assessment tools. Like even with the way you deal with conflict, there is actually a tool, this conflict mode assessment also by Thomas Gilman. So there are so many opportunities for us to be able to understand on how we behave and on how we do certain things. Next, please. Okay. So if you want to intentionally brand yourself, okay, even if not in the business kind of domain, but just to be, how can I say it, just to you to become more stronger at work, all right, or in your profession. Now is the time to start creating your big vision of your life. As mentioned here, take yourself out of the survival mode and get ready to create your first life. What does it look like? Is it just local? Is it national or global? Like for example, sometimes you tend to engage yourself in, you know, like working in volunteer organizations. Like for example, I admire what Filipino Diaspora Network is doing, because this is also a way to, how can I say, capitalize on the talents, okay, of nursing professionals around the world, and to be able to make a difference also, okay, to to the nurses around the world, such as in these kinds of platforms. So as a professional, do you want to be global? Do you want to do you want to be known locally, okay, in a national level? Do you want to have involvement in the global level? Okay, in what areas you can really hone your expertise? Is there anyone else who does anything similar? What are the benefits of someone coming to you? How can you incorporate all the things that you are passionate about to deliver an even superior product? All right. So next slide, please. Okay. It's very important for us to eliminate the obstacles along the way or standing in our way. What are the negative things that you tell yourself about how far you can go? So you need to ask these questions all the time. Okay? What are the negative things that you tell yourself about how far you can go? Are you where you want to be in your life right now? Do your everyday action support where you want to be? Because sometimes also we set specific goals, okay, in our career, in our personal life. But the problem is it is not aligned with our actions. All right. Do you have a specific habit? Do you wake up early? Okay. Do you plan your day? All right. So have you developed a system to keep you moving towards your goal? Are you willing to let go of friends and habits that are holding you back? All right. These are very important questions to ask. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, of course, identify your optimal target audience. So if you are working in the hospital, who is your target audience? Your patients, your colleagues, your boss. All right. So do you know everything there is to know about your target audience? Who they are, where they are, what do they currently think about your brand? Are you a caring nurse? All right. Are you a kind nurse? All right. What what would you like them to think about your brand? Who is competing for their loyalty? How are you going to attract them? And what can you do to service them above and beyond? Okay, next slide, please. Okay. We have to remember that in our career, or any successful person, even a CEO of a company, or a dean, or let's say a program director, they didn't reach this level of success, or like for example to be in a specific role or position without the help of other people, and even CEOs. Okay, it's very important for you to have coaches, mastermind groups, mentors, or others in your industry, especially mentorship. It's very important in our profession, particularly in nursing, right? I mean, in nursing, we tend to have a lot of mentors. It can be someone in your workplace that you trust, that has more experience than you, where you can learn from. All right. Next, please. All right. Okay. So in my case, there are a lot of people that inspired me. There are a lot of people that actually always, like push me. All right. And one of them is like my mentor, like Dr. Nancy Charles-Hopper. She's actually one of my one of my mentors, and I learned a lot from her. So if you will try to take a look at the third picture, she's actually Dr. Sarah Kim, and I was able to be given an opportunity to be coached, okay, by her, and for me to be able to understand my talents, and for me to be able to see the things that I don't see, all right, about myself. And this coach telling me that this is you, this is what you do, this is how you behave, this is who you are, or a person that validates who you are also. All right, so these are just some of the people. And also you can see here, there's another person here, Dr. Larry Simmons, who actually connected me with NLN as well. And of course, it will always be like our parents, right? Our mom and our dad, probably our siblings, okay, that somehow had an impact on who we are today, okay, and on how we present ourselves, okay, and our brand. And also our real friends, are the authentic people around us. All right, next, please. Okay, this is if you want to be intentional. Package your brand for success. If in case you want to be intentional, what does your brand look like? Your brand identity package, your clothes. That's why in nursing, you are teaching your students to what? To always, how can I say it? Show the professional image, okay, of nursing, especially when it comes to wearing their uniform, when it comes to their haircut, right? And these are the things that we are teaching the nursing students towards their professional role development. Does your working environment accurately reflect your brand? What about the way you lead projects or team meetings or even answer the phone? Is there a consistency with the way you show up? Is this the image that you would like to project? If not, what can you do to change it? Okay, next, please. Okay. Because there is what we call, particularly in terms of branding, and this is actually taught in contemporary leadership in nursing, for example, on how to create your own career trajectory plan, or in other schools also, career development plan. So it's very important for you to put together a binder, specifically for you to be able to look at accomplishments and for you to be able to look at, you know, all the things that when you are building that specific brand of yours. Like for example, if you want to become a nurse educator, a certified nurse educator, of course you are engaging more of yourself in like teaching strategies, in curriculum development, in program evaluation. All right. So there is alignment with your specialization and also the programs that you want to be engaged. All right. Keep note of the following, of course, because this is actually another topic that is very long to discuss. Like, you need to have your own mission statement. You need to know your target audience, particularly in the workplace that you are in, your goals, your 360 analysis. It can come from your peers, a feedback that you get from your boss, okay, from the people in the workplace generally. All right. A calendar to outline, as I said, if you want to be intentional when it comes to it, and also recommendations. Next, please. We all have two choices. We can make a living or we can design a life. Next, please. Okay, things to remember. You have to remember, all the people in this room, you are your biggest asset, and investing in yourself is the best decision that you will ever have. All right? You have to remember, a part of that branding, or on how we brand ourselves as healthcare professionals and as nurses, it's very important to focus on our power, to focus on what we can contribute, to focus on what we can be of service to the nurses around us. All right. And a part of that, or a part of us doing that, is also filling our own cup. Okay. Filling our own cup by engaging ourselves in professional development activities, community service. All right. Because that is really where we can make a significant difference to our profession. Right? That's why I really admire, as I said a while ago, organizations such as FiND, because they're doing this also to spread and to educate, okay, nurses around the world. All right, especially now through these kinds of global service learning platforms. This is a form of service. Get clear about your strongest traits and skills, and then operate in your strength zone. And this is also out of research, particularly with Gallup. Okay, like when you capitalize on your strength, probably some people, they know it, and probably others, it needs to be unlocked. So meaning it's hidden. They don't know what's their strength or strength zone. All right, are you more of a restorative person? Are you good at problem solving, critical thinking? Make sure that your daily activities are in alignment with your core values. So it talks about authenticity, because An authentic person carries their core values with them. And be consistent when it comes to your personal branding. It needs to be true, and you need to be consistent when you show up. Okay, next please. Last two slides, I think. Action tips. Okay, one way to find out how others feel about you is to ask. Okay, however, for other individuals and professionals, it's very difficult to ask, right? Because we are afraid of judgment. Okay, and it depends also on the workplace. Sometimes we are afraid that we might be, like especially in an environment when people gossip. I mean, this is reality, right? So start a wow file. So that can be a part of what I'm saying a while ago. You can have your own, like for example, for educators in a school of nursing, you have your academic portfolio, right? You document all your certificates, you document your research papers, you document the different types of scholarships that you do. Scholarship of practice, scholarship of discovery, scholarship of integration, all right? Your speaking engagements, all right? And also for those people who, on a basic level, just, like Google Alert. Okay, if you want to be updated in your practice, you have to read. Okay, if you are an educator, search what are the latest trends in education, for example. All right, but be very careful also with the content. Okay, that you can see online, because there are a lot also of erroneous information or fake news, as they said. Okay, in social media. Okay, and last slide. Decide who you want to be and then make it so. Next. All right, I think that's it. I tried my best in 45 minutes. All right, Ivan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Breboneria, for sharing your experiences and, of course, for comprehensively presenting about personal and professional branding, particularly for nurses. I hope that our participants coming from all over the places in the Philippines, based from the attendees, and I think we have from Bahrain, so Masa Alker or Tisba Alker, and Salamu Alaikum for those people whom we are our brothers in the Muslim continent. I think, and we do hope that our participants were enlightened and inspired rather to continue developing their skills and their craft in their chosen professions. So before we entertain questions from the participants, may we call in our first reactor to give her insights and of course her reflections from the message presented by our resource speaker.
All right, our first reactor is the auditor of Global Society for Filipino Nurse Researchers Incorporated, formerly Filipino Nursing Research Society Incorporated, Cavite State, and the current chair of Cavite State University Ethics Review Board. Let us hear the reaction of Ms. Karen Llewellyn. Good afternoon.
Hello, Ivan, audio check. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, so to the OIC of the Office of the Vice President for Research and Extension, Dr. Miriam Du Baltasar, our partners in the Filipino Diaspora Network with its president, Dr. Violeta Lopez, its CEO, Dr. Jerome Babate, the members of the Administrative Council here present, the rest of the faculty members, staff, alumni, students, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon. Dr. Breboneria made a quite extensive discourse about branding, and I must say I agree to most, if not all of it. And like him, I am also fond of storytelling. So allow me to read my impromptu notes so I won't be distracted with my thoughts. Okay, so pressing forward that since nurses play many roles in the clinical, community, academia, and a lot more setting, it is difficult to really identify our brand. If I may quote one of the meta theorists, Dr. Madeline Leininger when she visited the Philippines and had a convention in MOA. She said, and I quote, "Filipino nurses are the most compassionate and caring nurses in the world." That is a wow. That in itself is a brand inculcated in both our culture as a Filipino and how the academe honed nurses to prepare them for global competitiveness. Just like how Doc Benjo emphasized, grit or passion. Branding is important to highlight one's character and skill, or an institutional alias that can be promoted, a conglomeration of factors that will make us known for something great. Personally, it's hard to create a brand, and through the years of teaching, my students would perhaps say that Ma'am Karen is very strict CI, yet very funny during breaks. A friend or my friend would probably brand me as someone very clingy yet secretive. My person or my BFF is actually in the platform right now. So hi, Hilary. My parents for sure will have a different brand about me, and I don't think that's nice, or I don't know. But you have to agree with me, our parents would really say something we don't want, right? In the ERB office, perhaps, Miss Angie would say, "I am Miss Oti," or overtime, and the only non-coffee drinker in our block. How the other faculty members view me as a colleague, I would have to ask them that on Monday. Because I don't know, maybe perhaps they would always find me hungry or thirsty, or I really don't know. But you reminded me of the importance of how people view me, so let me just ask them on Monday. Just like all of you, I am still in the process of building my brand as a nurse, a leader, a student of life, and a Filipino. In the process, just like what Doc Benjo said, I lost some people. I did not regret it, but it has to happen. I listened to credible mentors and realized that pruning is indeed painful. And just like Nemo, I am still swimming. As one of the alumni, along with other graduate students of the Cavite State University College of Nursing, we are scattered all over the world, known and proud at what we do best. Of course, prolonging life and alleviate suffering. I think I can be bold enough to say that we are globally competitive and compassionate, never perfect, but excelling, masters of acculturation, hardening cultural adversities. That is the seal that we wanted to keep. As a Filipino nurse, I think resiliency was used too many times, but sometimes it's actually losing its deeper meaning. And aside from being resilient, I would like to believe we have positive spirits. We do not only hurdle challenges and look at it as a task that we need to accomplish or finish, but we face adversity with grace. We give extra to what we do. May it be extra smile, extra effort to get to know patients and meet their needs. We are warm in nature. The feeling we miss when one goes home for a tiring overtime or a tiring day, we are extra. Authentic, just like what you said, Doc, is the key word. In my opinion, our brand as a whole is our authenticity amongst the many brand or seal that we can proudly show to the world, the universe, rather. The unique untold stories of nurses deserve a platform like this to be heard. Doc Benjo was right when he said, these untold stories can empower nurses around us. How do you plan to tell your story? The power is within us. Use it properly. Branding yourself can be difficult, but it will start in your core as a person. It starts in knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, establishing proper mindset, and never forget to have fun in building your character until you reach your destination. And probably endorse yourself out there. Depends on how you plan to brand yourself. The right time is now, just like what he said. So if you're looking for a sign, this is the sign. I don't know if you that adverse in social media, but there are memes like that. So if you're looking for a sign, baka this is the sign. Okay, so thank you very much, Doc Benjo, for a very informative discussion. Personally, I am looking forward to the next. And because of you, I am inspired to start doing my wow file. Thank you very much to the organizers, and thank you very much to everyone. Continue to build your brand. Remember, you are bound for greatness. Remember not to forget. Happy branding and good afternoon.
That's great. And honestly speaking, you have power also when you speak. And you have that power also that when you talk, that you can easily share something that will resonate to the listener. I'm actually inspired by your message as well.
Thank you, Doc.
Yes. Especially the resilience part. I really like that one when you mentioned we're resilient also, but on the other hand, we need a lot of support because it can be a matter also of being resilient, but on the other hand, also we're abused or taken advantage of, right? By organizations or by the workplace and things like that.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, and we couldn't agree more. Our very core, the authenticity that we have, the values, the expertise, and intelligence that really stand out. Thank you very much, Ms. Karen. And now to hear the response and insights from a medical doctor's perspective, Sir Rolly.
All right, our second reactor is presently the Dean of the College of Medicine at the Cavite State University. Prior to her post as the Dean of the CVSU College of Medicine, she held as the Chairman of the Board of Medicine, Chairman of the Health Panel Forum, Chairman of the Continuing Professional Development Council for Medicine, PRC representative to the CHED Technical Committee for Medical Education, and to the Philippine National Health Research System Steering Committee on Research. She also represented PRC in the PhilHealth Quality Assurance Committee and the ASEAN Joint Coordinating Committee for the Medical Practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Eleanor Galvez to give her reactions and insight regarding on the theme in today's webinar. Good day, Doctor. Dr. Galvez, you then have the sound. Doc Galvez, I think nakamute po kayo.
Am I being heard now?
Yes, Doc.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to be part of this webinar organized by the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network in partnership with the College of Nursing of CVSU. As a College of Medicine that envisions to foster interprofessional collaboration, I am thankful for this invitation to share a medical perspective related to the diaspora of nurses. The phenomenon is not an unfamiliar one for doctors, since at the time that the country is beset with the lack of better opportunities and lure of getting better job abroad. Many doctors took up nursing in the year 2000 onwards. And I'm not sure though, if they were able to pursue to practice this profession abroad. Just stay on this slide, please. The lecture of Dr. Benjo, Breboneria, is very practical, informative, and inspires to self-reflect who we are and what qualities we want to develop, not just as a nurse, but any health professional, and what others would want to see about me. So what is your distinct brand that sets you apart from others? But let me just segue a little to some reminders, if I may call that reminders, about the basic nursing education that are very important in the branding of the Filipino nurses. Next slide, please. So, well, I just want to flash this, because it was sort of my guide, what to talk about. But personal and professional branding are not commonly discussed in schools, and maybe because the concepts seem to be related to products and services. preparing resumes, maybe attending professional class are some things that health professions learn on their own, diba? And particularly when looking for employment. However, branding is more than this. The concept of branding has to be introduced as early as first year college. Understanding the nature of the nursing profession and the program outcomes that serve as a guide in the way that nurses should be developed and are primary in the concept of branding. Next slide, please. In the Philippines, there is only one professional program for nurses, and that's the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. The curriculum is competency-based and community-oriented. The nursing model being adopted is focused in producing nurses who would assume the following major roles as nurse practitioner, nurse leader manager, and beginning nurse researcher. Somehow these models are types of branding that nursing schools should introduce in the school. Next, please. Okay, so schools have a primary role in the branding of Filipino nurses. Now, nursing schools are mandated to train their students according to the following program outcomes. So when we talk about branding, we do not have to look far. We can deduce the kind of personal and professional brand that we want to develop, but by looking at these program outcomes. Medical education has 10 program outcomes, but nursing education has 14. That's a long list to choose from, the kind of brand that we want to develop ourselves and our students. So you see here in the first slides, actually there are 2 slides on the program outcomes, just sort of a reminder. So one would be knowledge of physical, social, natural, and health sciences and humanities. Safe, appropriate, and holistic care, evidence-based practice, particularly in the delivery of care, laws, legal, ethical, and moral principles, effective communication, up-to-date client care. Next, please. Collaboration, no? Learning to collaborate with interdisciplines and multicultural teams. I know that some of those in the audience have this kind of opportunities in their place of work. Management and leadership skills, right? So these are some of the program outcomes for nurses. Research, to keep current with national and global developments. Of course, demonstrating that pride as a Filipino nurse at that, techno-intelligent care, maintaining our core values, and entrepreneurial skills, which are really very relevant nowadays. Now, assuming that nursing schools have faithfully observed or adhered to these program outcomes, nursing graduates and practitioners should be ready to take on career tracks as their personal and professional brand from among these. Nursing schools can help students at the primordial stage of training to prepare themselves to the type of personal and professional brand that they want, and with what our country needs. In this regard, in branding oneself, it is very important to know the state of HRH in the Philippines. Allow me to show you some slides regarding the production of HRH in the Philippines. Next, please. So there are the number of HEIs offering the BS nursing program in the Philippines are 720, mostly in Calabarzon, and that's 46. Next, please. Now, this data shows the number of enrollees versus the graduates versus the board passers from 2005 to 2018. Here we see that we are losing too much in terms of our HRH production. only about 25%, and that's 728,800 of nursing students graduated in 2005 to 2018. Out of these graduates, data in 2010 to 2018 showed an average passing rate of 44% for nursing. The large number of students who do not graduate, as discussed, implies a huge loss in the formation of human capital for health. Next, please. Okay. So when we speak of branding, there are factors to be considered. I think one is the location, right? I think many of you, again, have experienced this, no? One has to examine the current location that you would want to work in. Would that be in the city or suburbs, in hospitals or health maintenance organization, in the academe? One also considers the cost of living, the potential remuneration, and family benefits as well. So this slide actually tells us that USA is a favorite permanent destination and KSA as the temporary work destination. Next, please. Okay, another factor considered in branding is specialization. That's, for instance, ICU, critical care, home-based practice, long-term care, assisted living, rehabilitation facilities, or doctor's offices. No? For nurses who would want to be super specialized in their practice, they have to find a way to differentiate themselves. A few examples are working in a day surgery could be marketable to telemetry or medical surgical units. Interests, experts' experience or knowledge on infection control, or maybe an experience with epidemiology, especially during this previous health crisis. So in most countries of destination, the more specialized nurses are, the higher their salary. So this is actually shown in this slide. No? We see the average annual salaries in top destination countries. These are the salary comparison for nurses. Next, please. Okay. So in the midst of the pandemic, health workers' skills and stamina were tested, particularly for nurses, right? Our health system capacity was tested. Health workers' support system was also challenged. Not only did we have shortages and maldistribution in highly affected areas, we also had skill mix imbalances. Services done were not as compensated as we wanted to. In as much as COVID-19 was a novel infection, health workers feared for themselves and their families too. So this was an added burden to them. Next, please. Okay. So just before the pandemic, the UHC Act was enacted. The act was developed by virtue of RA 11223, otherwise known as Universal Healthcare Act. And this states that DOH, together with stakeholders, shall ensure the formulation of a national human resource for health master plan that will provide policies and strategies for the appropriate generation, recruitment, retraining, regulation, retention, and reassessment of health workforce based on population needs. So these are, I think, very good information that we in the academe should be able to inspire and also lead, no, or direct our students towards the type of practice they would want, no? And that would really mean deciding on the personal and professional branding. So I'd like to just end a word from Florence Nightingale. She said, "With loyalty will I endeavor to aid the physician in his work and devote myself to the welfare of those committed to my call. And from our recent experience of the pandemic, we have seen the brand of Filipino nurses: brave, patient, and kind. I hope that I leave you this as a food for thought in the way that nurses and all health professionals would choose to brand themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Galvez, for a very inspiring and motivating reactions. We were refreshed actually, personally, on my personal note, I was reminded and refreshed from our subject, career development and nursing jurisprudence, including the leadership and management, plus the fundamentals and even the ethics subject. So thank you for your sharing, Dr. Galvez. And now we are ready to entertain questions. Dr. Breboneria, we will allocate 15 minutes to entertain questions from our participants. And of course, I think we have already identified the questions written in the chat box. The first question is, how did you develop your self-esteem to speak in an audience? That is coming from Richelle Salaco. Thank you for your question, Dr. Benjo.
I will be speaking in our language, in Tagalog. Actually ako, in my case, parang hindi ko nga alam paano siya i-describe. Parang for me kasi parang transformation lang, para siyang magic. Ganon. Kasi ako kasi talaga especially when I was on my 20s, early 20s specifically. Even if people see me that, he's good, he's like this, but really deep within me, I have a very low self-esteem. Siguro nung time din na yon, parang pagka nagsasalita din ako, palagi akong yung kinakabahan or yung nawawala ako, parang ganon. Nawawala ako dun sa sasabihin ko. Kasi parang siguro at that time, I'm always thinking of what other people think about me. That's why getting to know yourself in the process, because authentic leadership also is a process. Not all leaders can be authentic and can really talk about who they are in front of an audience without that transformational journey of really accepting all your flaws or maybe accepting yung different kinds of emotions na na-experience mo. And really trying to understand all of those. It's a journey kaya pag tinatanong din ako, paano nga ba siya nangyari? Kasi siguro if there is a solid answer to that, maybe a part of this mentorship. Really listening to my mentors and really learning from them. Because it's really very important for us to, how can I say, to really, I admire the concept of mentorship. Because without my mentors, without the people who are willing to share their experiences and the journey and their guidance, I will not be able to be this person who can speak in front of an audience. I think that's a part of it, mentorship, aside from the journey.
Thank you very much, Dr. Benjo. I think we have another question.
Something, I think this is very important specifically for nursing students. Sometimes if you will be working in a workplace, there are generational differences. And especially to our young nurses, they need to understand also the value of working with people who are experienced. It's actually vice versa. In the case of nursing students or in the case of new nurses also, we really need to, to be able to appreciate the value that they bring at work, specifically those who are experienced. Because sometimes merong may division kasi, di ba, kung minsan between yung young at saka yung new. For example, when in fact really you can learn a lot from those who are experienced on their field, and we need to respect that and we need to honor that. It actually starts from there, especially for young nurses, students, or nurses who are early on their
Because pag kaya namatay, meron kayo tayong nasa last kaya tayo. So, parang maano na siya eh.
Hi, bad.
Kindly mute po.
Yes, Dr. Benjo. And again, we couldn't agree more, most especially when we discuss or when you discuss or you share the five exemplary or the five practices of exemplary leadership. We also have another question here, Dr. Benjo. Can you please share po any tips on how you handle emotional distress?
And it's actually quite honestly speaking, currently in my current situation, I am in a state of, how can I say, in a very high stress environment, particularly if you're working in accreditation. All right, and we all know, I think all of the people, all of the professionals here who experience handling to achieve, like accreditation is a very difficult responsibility. And honestly speaking, there are also instances that are, quite difficult for me to handle. And I'm not perfect. There are certain situations that, or moments na medyo nagbe-breakdown din ako, but I don't blame myself when I'm in those kinds of situations. But as a leader also, it's very important kasi part ng emotional intelligence eh. Now we really need to try our best to compose ourselves and to be calm, particularly in uncertainties or leadership in uncertain kinds of situations at work. So how do I handle it? Honestly speaking, most of the people and the leaders will say self-care, but I also want to be authentic by telling everybody that I'm having a hard time, particularly in that domain of self-care, because I tend to work more than 10 hours a day. So, and I'm honest to say that. But my advice is, like what my mentors were telling me, for you to be able to fill other people's cup, you need to fill in your own cup. It's very important.
Yes, correct, doctor. And in line with the previous question, what are your personal challenges you experience dealing with a diverse group of nurses in your workplace?
Honestly speaking, if there is something that I am grateful for, is that for me, that I was given an opportunity in my career to work in a diverse environment. Like in my workplace, around 8 or 9 nationalities. So in the beginning, it's difficult because we tend to it's like we will tend to become judgmental in the beginning because we don't understand. Like for example, ba't ganun yung buhok niya? Ba't ganun yung amoy? You think things like that. We don't understand. And we tend to say judgments when we see all those kinds of differences. But once you get to mature in that circle, honestly speaking, diversity is strength. Okay? And inclusivity is also another domain. Because when you say diverse, working in a diverse environment is really to be accepting. Okay? And be very careful with what you say. Be very careful with your remarks. Okay? It may tend to hurt other nationalities as well. Like for example, I think I mentioned this story before. Like sometimes in a group of diverse nurses, like someone will say, like Filipino nurses are more caring, like that. You cannot say that in a diverse environment, in a diverse group. All right? Because other nationalities might think that, why did they say that? Why they are saying that? So I was in many situations where I had to neutralize the tone, okay, within that room because other people will feel bad. It's like, as they said, racially profiling a specific group also. You got me? When it comes to specific statements, it's quite challenging, but at the same time also a very rewarding experience because cultural competence itself is a skill. It's a talent. All right? It's not something that you learn in an instant. It's really also a transformational journey because you will get to really become more accepting of the differences that you see. That's why I always say cultural diversity has to be with inclusivity. Inclusivity is different. It's like when you say inclusivity, you will not make any person feel excluded. Everybody in that room needs to feel included. Even if they have a little contribution or have little things to say, you will always give remarks that we will try to see. We will discuss that in the meeting, and we will see what will be the decision of the entire team. But at least the idea of that person was given a chance to be discussed. All right. So you will never ever, how can I say, feel uh, or make will feel someone excluded like that. So that's the challenge. In the beginning, it's very difficult because, like, for example, communication. It's like you will listen, anong sinabi niya? Yung maintindihan, anong sinabi niya? Pauulit-ulit kasi pag sa una, pag bago ka in a multicultural environment, hirap ka, yung hindi mo pa masyadong naiintindihan yung accent, yung tone, ng voice. Kung minsan, pagka pala ganun na medyo ang tone ng voice medyo strong, ganun lang pala talaga sila. Like, there are specific nationalities that are like that. When they talk, it's like, galit ba siya? So sometimes, you need to, that's why you really need to understand the differences. And for me to be able to be given that chance, is actually something that I'm grateful for.
Yes, doctor. And it just proves that you are really limitless. Okay, doctor, another question, Dr. Benjo. If you were to choose between character and reputation, which of the two would you pick and why?
Of course, at the end of the day, you will choose character because character is who you are, the real you, the authentic you, your authentic self. All right? Reputation kasi yun nga eh. I think that's the problem with me before. I think of that. I am thinking of what they will say about me when I speak in front of an audience. That's why uurong bigla yung dila mo pag nagsasalita ka kasi nga, iniisip mo, baka ini-evaluate nila yung grammar mo, baka tinitingnan nila yung ganito mo, okay ba yung suot mo, yung ano mo yun, yung parang lahat. Ano mo, nag-overthink ka na. Or sometimes also, leaders also tend to have imposter syndrome. Okay? And it's okay. Okay, for leaders to have that. Kasi minsan tayo mga leaders, ganun eh. Ganun tayo. Oh, we have a student here from Saudi Arabia. I can see a master student. Yes. Any other question?
Yes, doctor. Since we have a lot of participants here who are also students or who are also under the nursing program, do you have, Dr. Benjo, any advice you can give or share to our student nurses who are planning to work or go abroad?
Am I really the right person to answer that? Yeah, kasi honestly speaking, me going to Saudi Arabia, as I told you a while ago, is not a part of my plans. It was out of that extreme failure that I had when I was in the Philippines. And it turned out that Saudi Arabia became a blessing for me. And I will tell you, it's a journey. It didn't, in my own story, it didn't start as naging ganito ako agad. Naging head of department, naging ganito. Marami rin ako naging struggle. I had to really work hard to yung bang, alam mo yun, na para maging mo talaga yung respect, especially in a multiculturally diverse environment. So, para sa mga nurses natin, it's very important na do what makes you happy. And I know that there are some people here who are my friends and will be talking to me later, will tell me, Benjamin, ayan ka na naman. Like because even if I say those things, I'm also not a perfect human being. Honestly speaking, I'm already in a stage of my career, like for example, right now, that how can I say, I'm already, should I say, in the peak of, as I said, accreditation. And after that, I will be thinking of ways to move. And it's already in my career trajectory plan. For those students, you need to make sure that at the end of the day, it makes you happy. Yun pa rin eh. At the end of the day, you need to ask. people also and mentors. That's why the information of Dr. Eleanor is very relevant also. What is your priority? Is your priority the salary? What? The work environment? Do you want to work with Americans? Sometimes you need to be intentional. I mean, are you intentional as a student? Like, for example, if you want to make certain decisions of moving to another country, intentional, meaning you are thinking of the benefits, you're thinking of the salary, you're thinking of the workplace, you're thinking of working with specific nationality or things like that. But salary also. A lot. I mean, let's be realistic and let's be honest. People are really looking at the salary, right? When it comes to especially moving to another country, and also the work-life balance. Also, work-life balance. They are looking at these things. So many things to look at and to navigate.
Yes, doctor. It's like doing what we love and loving what we do. Our next question, doctor, is from the diaspora pre-registration process. What books or resources on personal branding would you recommend, Dr. Benjo?
I will give you my personal experience. I was able to really understand this when I was with NLL, the Center for Transformational Leadership in the LEAD program. So I was taught about branding by mentors. I really did not, of course, I read the books that, like, for example, now I will tell you I'm reading The Power of Regret, book Power of Regret. And I align all those books with my career trajectory plan as a part of the branding. And I learned that from mentors. So, like, for example, if there are specific books about branding, it's not about branding. What are your unique talents, or what are the talents that you want to improve? What are your skills that you want to improve? What are the strengths that you want to capitalize? Do you want to improve your communication skills? So you will be thinking of books that can help you do that. Or you can also, like, for example, do you want to become more of an inspirational speaker? Why not download TED Talks, the application, and listen to, how can I say it, to TED Talks or inspirational talks. What about if you cannot read an entire book, why not, for example, download Mentor Box, just for you to be listening to the summary of the books and watching the authors talk about the book in 20 minutes rather than reading an entire book. So there are so many ways. I cannot say that, of course, there are specific books, but it will be individualized according on how you want to improve as a professional. Communication, leadership. In leadership, there are so many books. All right. Or tools, assessment tools as well, because these are all a part of branding. Like the assessment tools that I mentioned a while ago. If you want to know your strengths, then access Clifton strengths. Like, for example, I'm a Gallup coach. So we tend to work on that. And for me to help a professional unlock their talents, or like for them to see their strengths and things like that. So, ano siya, very comprehensive. There's no specific book because I learned it from mentors and from teachers.
Yes, doctor. It's like finding the best resources and the people for us to be able to brand ourselves. Dr. Benjo, this question is my personal question. Since we are talking about personal and professional branding, remember that public portrayals or description of nurses in terms of gender, dress, and role responsibilities are rampant, whereas local and international television and series have been portraying the professional image of nurses, and to some extent, how they present negative image of nurses from a sexy image to incorrect or substandard basic nursing procedure and stereotyping. May we know what is your take on this, doctor?
There's only one thing that I can say. It needs to be integrated in the curriculum also, because that's a part of professional role development. Because especially now, nurses, you need to educate nurses, because what are those stereotypes that nurses have? Like for example, historically nurses as angels of mercy, nurses as how can I say, love interest of other healthcare professions, like 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 medical doctors. These are the historical, how can I say it, like image, right? I mean, in the past, or as you mentioned, also we were like in the past also like as the naughty nurse or like the bombshell kind of stuff, things like that, and or as a handmaiden of the medical doctors, for example. So these are historical, or nurses as the battle axe also. Like when they think of nurses historically, these are like, you know, the a big fat woman with an injection, okay, in her hand, and things like that. Or the male nurses as gay, as effeminate, or sexual predator, you know, and things like that. So the only thing that we can do in these kinds of situations, particularly now, nursing is different. We all know that nursing is different. And the only thing that we can do, especially in nursing schools, is really to advocate, to promote the positive image of nursing, because that's the only thing that we can do, to be an advocate of that positive image, all right, of nursing. And how can we do that? We can also do that in many different ways, such as integrating it in our curriculum. It should be a part of the curriculum, starting from level 1, for example, threading it all throughout your curriculum. Okay, like actually, there is something also that I would like to interject, like Dr. Eleanor mentioned about a while ago about interprofessional collaboration. Okay, this is actually also a contemporary nursing education issue. All right, this is very, very relevant, like interprofessional education and collaborative practice. So you also need to integrate that in the curriculum. And how are you going, even if you integrate that in the curriculum, the next question is, what specific strategies are you going to use? Like, for example, how can the other healthcare providers be involved in the classroom? Or probably some requirements in the classroom wherein, let's say, other students can simulate or ask healthcare providers such as doctors, medical technicians, physical therapists, or pharmacists. So this is a pedagogy itself. Interprofessional collaboration is a pedagogy. So basically, my answer to your question is to integrate it in the curriculum.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Benjo. Sir Rolly?
Yes, Sir Ivan. I think we still have one more questions here written in the chat box. Dr. Benjo, the questions is, I am a writer professionally po and as a hobby, kaso in nursing. I can find much opportunity with my expertise. I am currently learning how to handle SaaS business, or the pronounce it SaaS, but experience difficulty in finding the right people and the money. Do you have any advice on how I can venture in this nursing specialization?
You mean writing books? Writing books?
I think so. Because sabi niya rito ay the business is still in the nursing field po. Thank you.
I have known some people who actually talked and communicated with coaches that owns a publication company or things like that, because I've known that from my colleagues. I have colleagues in my current work who publish books about their stories, for example, but they approached some coaches to help them on that. But in terms of, like, for example, publication, I think also it needs investment. It also needs investment. And you need to look for people who can fund your projects. It's very important also. That's why this is, how can I say, influencing skills also. Okay, you need to be in touch and communicate with people whom you think can help you along the way. And you need to be assertive and assertive when it comes to that. All right, because I've seen I have some colleagues who have published books. All right, and I even have one Filipina colleague who just published a book about her life story. All right, And she's actually working with some coaches and also happens to be like an owner of a publication company and things like that. Because funding is very important also. You need to have those people and a community of interests that can probably support that endeavor and that project. All right. And I know it's a difficult task and a difficult how can I say it, a difficult, but if it can be a form of a career, yes, it can be for sure. Yeah, that's why we have a lot of renowned authors. All right. But I told you, those people who achieve that level of success also have mentors, okay, and financiers who help them jumpstart that project. You need to look for those people. That's why you need to, like, for example, become members of, if you're a nurse, why not start through networking? Networking, if you want to capitalize on your skills as a leader, why not volunteer with Sigma? Sigma Theta Tau, for example, Honor Society of Nursing, or the National League for Nursing. It starts from there, I think, networking. Because networking actually propelled me to get to know a lot of mentors and people and to really maximize on the experiences that I can learn from these people. All right. So that eventually helped me improve my leadership skills. All right. Any other question?
I think we don't have already other questions written in the chat box. That's all. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjo, for bravely answering all those questions. Sir Ivan.
Yes, certainly. And with that, Dr. Benjo, we're very grateful that we were able to come up with this webinar, and we are very pleased again to have you today. You know what, Dr. Benjo, with the sharing of experiences and the presentation that we discussed earlier, if in nursing we have these ABCDs, or the airway, breathing, circulation, disability, and exposure, with the presentation earlier, we were able to come up with our very own ABCDs for this webinar. A is to assess ourselves, or the self-awareness is the key. B is to be personally and professionally equipped in this diverse arena. C is the consistency. And letter D, do not forget our roots, that we have to serve our community and to give back to where it is due. We gotta start loving, doing, and living with it. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjo.
Part of being grateful, Ivan, part of being grateful is to really appreciate, to pave the way, pave the way, and also to pay it forward. That's the right term, pay it forward, especially to the people who help you along the way. It's very important. I mean, you cannot succeed or you cannot be successful without, appreciating and be very grateful for those people who help you, even if in small little ways. Maliit man o malaki, huwag kang makakalimot, sabi ka.
Correct. And those who were part, or those who have been part of our journey.
Actually, important yung sinabi ni Dr. Eleanor, integrating it in the curriculum. So, threading it in the curriculum from level 1 until level 4, it's very important also. Even if it's not full-blown topic, but you can do that progressively across the curriculum. Curricular thread. You can make it as a curricular thread in the curriculum.
Yes, doctor, from the competency-based to outcomes-based education of the BS Nursing program. All right, at this juncture, we will now proceed with the awarding of certificates of appreciation to our resource speaker and panel of reactors. May we request to turn on your camera when receiving the certificates? Thank you.
Allow me to read the citation of the certificate. Filipino Nursing Diaspora, in collaboration with the Cavite State University. This certificate of appreciation is hereby awarded to Dr. Benjamin Joel Breboneria for sharing his valuable knowledge and experiences as a resource speaker in the FiND and CVSU webinar series entitled The Power of You, Personal and Professional Branding for Nurses, held on the 19th March 2022 via Zoom. Signed, Professor Violeta Lopez, President, and the Dean of the College of Nursing of the CBSU, Dr. Evelyn M. Del Mundo. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin, for being with us today.
All right, in order of appearance, a certificate of appreciation is hereby given to Ms. Karen Luella Arint, MANRN, for sharing her valuable knowledge and insights as panel of reactor in the FiND and the CVSU webinar series, The Power of You, Personal and Professional Branding for Nurses, held today, March 19, 2022, via Zoom, signed by Professor Violeta A. Lopez, President of Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, and Dr. Evelyn M. Del Mundo, Dean of the College of Nursing. Thank you very much, Ms. Rin.
Thank you.
Another certificate of appreciation is given to Dr. Eleanor J. Galvez for sharing her valuable knowledge and insights as panel of reactor in the FiND and CVS webinar series, The Power of You, Personal and Professional Branding for Nurses, held today, March 19, 2022, via Zoom, signed by Dr. Professor Violeta A. Lopez, President of FiND Network, and Dr. Evelyn M. Del Mundo, Dean of the College of Nursing.
Thank you.
Before we send the evaluation link and present the QR code, may we request our CVSU graduates, students, and the CON Academic Council, including the faculty members, to join us in the singing of the Cavite State. Sir Ivan, closing remarks.
All right, and before that's gonna happen, once again, let us give our resource speaker and reactors a virtual round of applause. Now we are down to the last part of our webinar. Let us hear the closing remarks from the Director of Development of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, which will be then represented by our faculty member from the College of Nursing, Dr. Annie Ramos.
Good afternoon, everyone. So in behalf of the Filipino Diaspora Network, we would like to thank you all in attending the webinar. So Professor Violeta Lopez, President and CEO of Filipino Diaspora Network, Dr. Jerome Babante, the CEO, in behalf of Dr. Cindy Lay, Director of Development of FiND Network, CVSU OIC Vice President, Research and Extension, Dr. Miriam Du, Dr. Evelyn Del Mundo, Dean and College of Nursing, faculty, alumni, and colleagues in the College of Nursing, and all the colleagues from the medical and paramedical field. Our guest speaker, Dr. Benjo, Breboneria, thank you for a wonderful speech about personal and professional branding of nursing. I would like to thank everyone who took their time out from their personal and professional schedule to attend this webinar. All and a sudden, it's time to start something new and trust in the magic of the new beginnings. We hope today to inspire ideas and discussion around the way that we can make the branding of nursing in our profession. I hope that this inspires nurses. It's really important to express ourselves in our emotion and gratitude to everyone who loves us. We can be empowered by sharing our stories. Always remember, all of us have our brands that makes us distinct from one another. We shouldn't be afraid to show who really we are and apply the different strategies in applying the different branding of nursing. I hope we could invest in ourselves and become better nurses to represent not just nurses but Filipino nurses around the world. And may this be a start of a new beginning in the field of Filipino nursing. As Dr. Galvez has said, we should start during your first year. And I hope this would be a start of training new nurses, a new breed of nurses in the Philippines and to be known around the world. Thank you all for attending this webinar and God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Annie Ramos. And we miss you today, Dr. Cindy Lake. Sir Rolly?
All right, before we will send the evaluation link and present the QR code, we will request our CVSU graduates, students, our faculty members, and the academic council to open their camera and join us in singing the CVSU hymn.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all of you being with us virtually. At this juncture, we would like to express our sincerest gratitude to the following. Cavite State University Administration, headed by our University President, Dr. Hernando D. Robles, Dr. Maria Agnes Pinuestro, Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs, and we also have the team of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, Dr. Villeta Lopez, Dr. Cindy Lake, and Professor Jerome Babate. For documentary purposes, may we request our resource speaker, reactors, and the College of Nursing Academic Council to turn on their cameras for a quick group photo. All right. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Very good. Let's continue. All right, and we would like to inform everyone that the link to the evaluation form and the QR code is now already posted, and you can scan the QR code showing on screen, and please kindly accomplish the evaluation form to receive your e-certificates immediately. Sir Rolly?
And that concludes our program. Thank you everyone for sparing your precious time in attending this international nursing webinar. We do hope that you learned and were able to internalize the significance and the importance of today's webinar theme, the power of you, personal and professional branding for nurses.
Before we leave, we would like to announce the upcoming Diaspora Day on May 7, 2022, a webinar to be hosted by Holy Angel University, and on the 10th day of May this year, a roundtable meeting discussion of Filipino nurse educators from various countries such as Australia, United States, Middle East, Canada, Singapore, Philippines, to name a few, which will be then hosted again by the Cavite State University. And to keep us updated with the upcoming activities, do not forget to like and share the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thank you very much until the next webinar. Again, this is Ivan Waikopo.
And this is Rolando Pascual Antonio. We're now signing off. God bless everyone and stay safe. Mas salama.
Thank you for attending.
Salam.
Thank you, Dr. Benjo.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Congratulations, Con, Sir Ivan, Sir Rolly.
Congratulations. Thank you, ma'am.
Prof. Jerome. Prof. Jerome, kamusta po? Okay.
We still
Hapon
have
na tayo.
99, ma'am. Meron pang 99
May 99.
participants sa Zoom.
Nag-evaluate siguro yung iba.
Opo. Bago tayo mag-evaluate din yata with
Pala sa lahat.
Dr. Babate.
Dr. Evelyn, also thank you also to the faculty members, to Dr. Jerome, to Dr. Cindy, to Dr. Violeta, and the rest of the faculty members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Benjo. Hanggang sa susunod po.
Hanggang sa muli. Hanggang sa susunod.
Bye.
Thank you, Doc Benjo. Thank you po.
Thank you po, Doc Benjo.
Sir Ivan, wala nang ano.
We still have 82, 81.
Madami pa, ma'am.
Papa. I will continue to paste po the link para sa evaluation form natin. Yes, thank you from the thank you to our participants from Dr. Jose Fabella Hospital. Hello, good afternoon. You're welcome.
Sir Ivan, sabi ni Sir June, wala daw link doon sa Allcon, siguro naghahanap.